I recently joined one of Zwift's Z Racing monthly series races in Paris, and I was stunned when two pro cyclists decided to show up. Can me, a 15-year-old cyclist, beat these two professional cyclists? Keep watching to find out. What's up everyone, welcome back to another racing video, and today I'm going to be talking about my race on 2 laps of Champs-Élysées, and this is part of the Z Racing monthly series, as I said earlier, and we are currently going through the banner, starting the first lap because we've just finished the lead-in. So far, things are looking pretty calm, but we're going to skip ahead to where things start to get pretty spicy and riders start to push the pace. As you can see here, I did get a feather power-up coming through that first banner, and you can see everyone is already misusing their anvil power-ups, which is a huge miss for them, and they're just wasting it going up the hill. They could very well use that on the downhill, and it would help them tremendously. You can see here, paces are starting to rise. We're going around 5 watts per kilo on the front now, and I'm sort of staying right in that sweet spot. I'm saving my featherweight power up because I know I might need it later on. I don't want to burn it now and then fall off the back of the group, whereas everyone else, they're kind of just using it now. They're already struggling, and this is already a pretty good sign for me. I know I can hold this pace for a little bit longer, so I know I don't need to turn on my featherweight boost until this next little kick, and that's going to be right about now. And once I activate that feather power up, I do push the pace a little bit so I can stay in contact and stay near the front of the group because I do not want to be caught in the back once the downhill does start heading down Champs-Élysées. Stepping aside from the racing for just a quick moment to talk about the rider who is directly behind me, Peter Lombard II. He is a Guamanian cyclist who currently rides for UCI Continental Team Eurocycling Trips Pro Cycling. He also rode in the 2016 Summer Olympics. So I am up against a former Olympian right here. So I know that things are going to be pretty spicy, and I know that I need to keep an eye on him at all times because he is a really strong cyclist, and I really need to make sure that he does not get away while I am not paying attention. Also, if you are enjoying this video, please hit that subscribe button. It really does help support the channel. And with that, let's continue on with the video. The second pro cyclist I will be pointing out later on once we see him on the rider leaderboard, but for now, let's talk about the racing. I currently have an anvil power up, and you see just how much it helped me, and I actually flew right through the group going at 37 miles per hour. That's pretty quick, and that just shows you how much of an advantage the anvil power up can give you, especially if you're a lighter rider like myself. And it kind of just goes to show how big of an advantage the power-ups can give you if you do use them in the right way. So we saw those riders using it in the wrong way, and you really want to be using it on a downhill anytime it's around a 3% or greater, because that's where the anvil power-up actually takes effect. If you're riding on a flat road, the anvil does absolutely nothing. So do keep that in mind for your future Zwift races. You can see here another rider using their feather power-up. That is not a smart idea either. So overall, just really learn your power-ups, and I have a video linked in the description below that'll help you figure out what power-ups to use and when. And the next pro cyclist you can see on the upper part of the rider list is Dan Nichols. Dan Nichols, I couldn't find much about him, but here is his pro cycling stats page for his one race that he did complete during his pro cycling career. Now, this next section is pretty chill, and nothing much happens here. You can see mostly in Zone 2 to Zone 3 during this part of the course, and we're about to go through the Champs-Élysées tunnel, and that's where things really start to get spicy. Right here, you can see here, everyone is punching up. You can see their featherweight power-ups are being used. I'm up to 450 watts. That's around 10 watts per kilo, and I'm just absolutely flying up this, and I end up out front with this other rider, and you can see here, riders start to swarm me, and I immediately surge again so that I can stick with them and sort of hold their pace because I know that I need to stay right near the front, especially during this part, because there could very well be a crucial split during the race. However, no splits did occur. We did drop 1 or 2 riders, but overall, nothing too major, and everything is settled back down. It's back to that Zone 2 pace for the remainder of this lap. Coming through this banner, I'm hoping to get a featherweight power-up because I know that that will help me the most, especially on this upcoming climb, because my legs are starting to feel it, and this is one of my hardest races that I've done in probably the last 6 months because I have not been really on my Zwift racing game, and this was sort of the first race that I've sort of felt like myself again and felt like I could really push those high numbers and keep up with the rest of the group. You can see here, things are starting to ramp up. We're up to around 180, 200 watts, and now this is where things start to kick up, and I am pushing 270 watts here, 290, 300, and I'm still not using my featherweight power-up because I know that I am going to need it later on. But right here, once other riders start to kick, I'm like, okay, it is time to start going, and I need to really start chasing because those 2 pro cyclists are up the road, and I cannot let them get away because I am determined to prove myself as a little 15-year-old cyclist that I can beat these 2 riders. you can see here that I'm really pushing high now. I'm pretty much on the front now, holding on to one other rider's wheel, and we're just sort of pushing along and seeing what we can do on the front. And you can see here things are starting to spread out with the group, but I don't think it's going to be enough in order to actually cause a major split. So after that, I do settle back down, and I do just do whatever I need to do in order to stay close to that front of the group. Alright, now fast forward over to that we are on the other end of this roundabout. And I think this is a really crucial part of the race, because this is where things are really going to start to speed up, and if I don't really just stay with these front riders, I'm going to be dropped. I could have very well eased up and done what most people would do on a downhill, but I know that since I'm a lighter rider, I need to be towards the front of the group so that the group doesn't swarm me and absolutely just leave me in the dust. So you can see here, I'm still pushing around 200 to 220 watts, just trying to hold on to these riders. You can see here, we're in a pretty tight bunch now, and I'm starting to get, once I get a really comfortable position, I feel like my momentum is really solidified. That's when I actually start to settle down and really enjoy the downhill. So I think that's a really crucial takeaway from this, is that you should really make sure you are comfortable in the downhill, not just easing up as soon as you feel the like road start to slope down. It's really important to make sure that you are in a safe position and it is somewhere where you can ease up and you will not get dropped. And as one would probably expect with a Zwift race, that jab at the top of the climb was not all we're going to get from this race. You can see here, as we're going through, pretty easy here, but then all of a sudden, some rider just absolutely sprints off the front. And I'm like, oh shoot, I gotta go chase them. So as soon as I see that, I start to ramp my power up to around 280. I'm still being conservative. I'm sort of surfing the wheels, because I know that if these riders in front of me do decide to work, I can just ride off their wheels rather than doing my own work. But I decide that it's too risky, and I absolutely just start ripping a sprint up to 400 watts. I'm able to catch up and find a really comfortable position in the front of this group right here. You can see here, we're holding around 220 watts as we start to enter that tunnel, and I know that this is another really important part, and since I am in the front, that's probably not the best positioning, so I do ease up a bit. Then once I get back into the grain group, I really start to push the power a bit, because I know that someone is going to sprint here, and it's not going to be pretty. You can see here, everyone starts sprinting, and I'm like, okay, I gotta chase. We got Patrick Lombard up the front of the road here, so I gotta go chase him and make sure that he does not get away in this final mile of the race. I'm up to around 230 watts, 240 at times, and I am just absolutely hammering on the pedals right now. At this point, I don't think I really have anything left for the sprint, but well, I was pretty surprised by what I managed to pull off in the end. You can see here, things are starting to group back up. We're in a pretty good position. I'm like, okay, I've got a great position for the finishing sprint right now. All I need is for my legs to really feel good. But that quickly changes. You can see here, everyone starts to really start chasing right now, and I'm sort of left behind, so I end up having to push around 300 watts in order to get better position in the group in this finishing sprint, and that is not a great situation. And I can see now that everyone is starting to go, so I start my sprint. I turn my feather power up on. In hindsight, I definitely could have turned my feather power up on around 5 seconds earlier, and that would have saved me some extra watts that I could have saved for the sprint. Because here I hit up to 500 watts, really not a great sprint for me, but it is what it is, and that's definitely better than I have been doing in the recent months. So you can see here, I'm just hammering. It's everything I have. My heart rate is going up like crazy. I'm up to around 205 beats per minute. You can see here that was absolutely crazy finish. It was pretty much down to the line, and I ended up beating both Dan Nichols and Patrick Lombard. Pretty amazing in my opinion. Going into this race, I didn't really have any expectations because I hadn't been racing very well recently, and my overall cycling fitness has just been absolutely horrible. But I did what I always love to do with racing, is just make do with what I have and really just have as much fun as I possibly can. And this race certainly did not disappoint. It was lots of fun. I could really use my tactics, and overall, that was an absolute blast. If you enjoyed this video or found it useful, please leave a like, subscribe. It really does help support the channel. And with that, thank you all for watching, and ride on. 'Cause it doesn't mean